Okay, quick summary. Well, the reduction is this. Half the first row, add -6 times that to the second, right? And do those things to the identity. Half the first row gives you, from this one, gives you this. Add -6 times the first to the second on the identity, you get this, right? So these are your two elementary matrices. Now we want to do the inverse elementary matrices. The inverse of E1 undoes 1 times the first row times 1/2, right? So what would undo that? Well, what would we have to do to this matrix to get back to this one? And this matrix, what operation gets us back to this one?
2 times the first.
2 times the first row, right? So E1 inverse, well, we just do this to the identity. I'm not going to write out the steps of that. Okay? Gives us this. And then we can double check. If we do this times this, we should get the identity, right? Well, you can do that in your head. If you can't, you can write it out, convince yourself. But if you can't do it in your head, well, you know, maybe your head doesn't work well with that kind of array type thinking and you have to write it out. That's okay. But most people, that's fairly simple. These elementary matrices are pretty easy to multiply. Okay, well, how do we undo this? Well, you can see by the matrix that we would have to add 6 times the first row to the second to get this. I mean, if you had this matrix and you wanted to get here, that's what you would do, isn't it? So, E2 inverse we just add 6 times the first row to the second. Okay? And elementary matrices are just this simple. It's just one operation, and it's really easy to see what undoes that operation and what the matrix has to be, and to verify it. And you should do all three the first day when you're doing these. You should write it out like this, and then multiply this by this to make sure you get this. And if you don't, go back and think, how do I do that again? Well, if I look at this, how am I going to get to this? If I look at this, how am I going to get to this using row operations? Should be familiar enough with row operations. I think you are, because I think you're doing them as a whole just fine. Anyhow, that gives us the matrix 1, 0, 6, 1. Okay? And we can verify, multiply this by this, get the identity. This times this is 1, this times this is 0, this times this is 0, this times this is 1. Okay? Okay. So, now what do we do next?